I spent an entire year investigating one of the world's most secretive religious organizations. What I discovered will shock you. This is the story of the Jehovah's Witnesses, a global empire worth tens of billions of dollars, operating under a veil of secrecy that would make multinational corporations envious. My investigation began with a simple question: how does a religious organization that discourages higher education and careers manage to accumulate such massive wealth while maintaining almost zero financial transparency? What I uncovered was far more disturbing than I ever imagined. The Jehovah's Witnesses didn't start as the tightly controlled organization we see today. In 1870, a young businessman named Charles Taze Russell began a small Bible study group in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Russell was troubled by traditional Christian doctrines like the Trinity, eternal torment in hell, and the immortality of the soul. He believed these teachings contradicted Scripture, and in 1879, he started publishing a magazine called Zion's Watchtower to spread his interpretations. But Russell's democratic approach to Bible study wouldn't last. When he died in 1916, Joseph Franklin Rutherford seized control in what can only be described as a corporate takeover. Rutherford was a lawyer, and he understood power. Between 1917 and 1942, he systematically dismantled Russell's congregational democracy and replaced it with a hierarchical theocracy. It was Rutherford who gave the group their current name in 1931, Jehovah's Witnesses, based on Isaiah 43 verse 10. Under Nathan Homer Knorr from 1942 to 1977, the organization exploded globally. Knorr established branch offices in dozens of countries and created systematic missionary training programs. During his tenure, membership grew from 108,000 to over 2 million. But it was the transition in 1976 to governance by a collective governing body that created the current structure, with authority shared among what is now 11 men who direct global operations from their headquarters in Warwick, New York. Today's governing body operates through 6 specialized committees: coordinators, personnel, publishing, service, teaching, and writing. Decisions require a 2/3 majority, replacing the previous requirement for unanimity that was dropped in 1975. This hierarchy extends globally. World headquarters flows down to 87 branch offices, then to circuits containing about 20 congregations each, then to 118,767 individual congregations, and finally to field service groups. This structure allows uniform doctrinal control on a global scale that's unprecedented in religious organizations. But here's where things get interesting from a financial perspective. In 2014, the organization implemented a centralized financial model where all congregations contribute to a unified, worldwide work fund. Instead of individual congregations taking out loans for new kingdom halls, branch offices now finance these projects directly. This change meant that hundreds of millions of dollars in outstanding congregation loans were simply forgiven overnight, while the organization gained control over all local real estate assets. The doctrinal distinctives of Jehovah's Witnesses create more than just theological debate, they generate serious legal and medical controversies. The organization rejects core Christian doctrines including the Trinity, considering Jesus subordinate to Jehovah. They refuse to celebrate holidays like Christmas and birthdays, considering them of pagan origin, and they reject military service. Their eschatological beliefs include that Jesus began ruling in 1914, that 144,000 anointed ones will govern in heaven, and that the majority of faithful will live forever on earth after Armageddon. But it's their blood transfusion policy that has generated the most legal challenges. The organization prohibits whole blood, red cells, white cells, platelets, and plasma, but allows smaller components like albumin by personal choice. This doctrine has led to numerous legal cases involving medical treatment of minors. with courts frequently ordering transfusions against family wishes. The Canadian Supreme Court's 2009 decision established standards for mature minor decision-making, while the European Court of Human Rights ruled in 2024 that Spain violated religious freedom by forcing a transfusion. Ironically, the development of bloodless surgery techniques has been partially driven by the medical needs of Jehovah's Witnesses. What my investigation revealed, however, goes far beyond doctrinal differences. The systematic shunning of former members, known until August 2024 as disfellowshipping, requires complete social isolation, including from family members. Estimates indicate more than 1 million people globally face this organized ostracism. Belgium fined the organization €12,000 for discrimination, though this was later overturned on appeal in 2022. Norway removed state funding due to shunning policies considered psychological violence. Studies document severe mental health consequences including depression, PTSD, and suicidal ideation among those subjected to this treatment. But the most disturbing aspect of my investigation concerned the organization's handling of child sexual abuse cases. The Australian Royal Commission's 2015 investigation revealed internal records of 1,006 alleged perpetrators related to more than 1,800 victims since 1950, with not a single case initially reported to police by the organization. The Commission concluded that the organization does not adequately respond to child sexual abuse. The controversial two-witness rule, based on biblical texts, requires 2 witnesses or a confession for internal disciplinary action. The Royal Commission called this policy unacceptable and wrong in abuse contexts, noting it places victims in a deeply unfair and potentially traumatizing position. When abuse occurs behind closed doors, as it typically does, this policy effectively protects perpetrators while silencing victims. The legal consequences have been staggering. In Hawaii, a 2023 case awarded $40 million to an abuse survivor. In California, the Candace Condi case initially awarded $28 million, later reduced to $2.8 million. A Montana jury verdict of $35 million was subsequently overturned by the state Supreme Court. Document sanctions have totaled over $2 million in California cases due to refusal to produce internal documents, with daily fines of $4,000 for noncompliance. The pattern isn't limited to the United States. The UK Charity Commission conducted a 9-year statutory investigation concluded in 2023, finding the organization not as straightforward or transparent as it could be. New Zealand's Royal Commission on Abuse and Care found similar patterns to Australia regarding non-reporting of abuse, with evidence of instructions to destroy documents during the investigation period. Pennsylvania's ongoing grand jury investigation from 2020 to 2025 into systematic cover-up of child sexual abuse has resulted in multiple arrests, including Elder Norman Aviles Garriga, convicted in 2024 for abusing 3 children. Academic research consistently identifies Jehovah's Witnesses as exhibiting characteristics of high-control groups through information, behavior, thought, and emotional control mechanisms. A 2023 study of 424 former Jehovah's Witnesses in Austria, Germany, and Switzerland found that 33% reported suicidal thoughts, 10% attempted suicide, with high levels of childhood trauma and clinically significant psychological symptoms. A Western Australia study found Jehovah's Witnesses were 3 to 4 times more likely to receive diagnoses of schizophrenia and paranoid conditions compared to the general population. The organization systematically discourages independent biblical research outside approved publications, reading critical material about the organization, higher education beyond basic vocational needs, and contact with former members or apostates. A 2022 study on educational identity formation found that Jehovah's Witnesses prioritize organization-generated knowledge over academic knowledge, leading to stunted personal development, and suppression of critical thinking skills. Former members face what researchers describe as devastating long-term effects on mental health, work possibilities, and life satisfaction, with problems amplified in female ex-members due to heavy themes of sexism. Common transition challenges include identity crisis from losing entire social support system, practical difficulties from lack of educational or career preparation, emotional trauma from grieving lost relationships, and social skill deficits from difficulty navigating mainstream society. The financial operations of Jehovah's Witnesses reveal extraordinary opacity for an organization of their size. With estimated assets in the tens of billions of dollars, they were listed by Newsday in 2001 among New York's 40 richest corporations, with revenues exceeding $950 million. Brooklyn property sales generated over $2 billion from 2004 to 2018. Their 2024 operations include establishing 3 new financial management companies in Ireland, hiring experienced banking executives, including former UBS Group Executive Board member Philip J. Lofts, publishing literature in over 1,050 languages, and operating 15 printing facilities across 6 continents. Despite this massive scale, the organization maintains extraordinary financial opacity. They don't file Form 990s, claiming exemption as a religious organization. No audited financial statements are publicly available. They receive a 0-star rating from Charity Intelligence Canada for lack of transparency, and cannot be evaluated by Charity Navigator due to insufficient financial disclosure. Regulatory conflicts include extensive court battles to avoid producing financial documents, and $2 million in legal sanctions for refusal to cooperate in California cases. The organization operates through a complex network of dozens of legal entities globally, including the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Pennsylvania as the main global entity, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York for real estate and publishing, and the Christian Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses for congregational matters. Current membership statistics from 2024 show 9,043,460 peak publishers, which are active members reporting preaching activity, with 8,828,124 average monthly publishers. Their annual growth rate of 2.4% is significantly below historical averages. With 296,267 new baptisms, and 21,119,442 memorial attendance, growth trends show decline from historical average of 5.63% annually from 1981 to 1995 versus current average of only 2.09% from 1996 to 2021. Analysis suggests that more than 500,000 members leave every 5 years. The organization faces growing legal challenges internationally. They're banned in Russia and several other countries, face legal challenges in multiple nations over blood transfusion policies, and encounter child protection policy conflicts with mandatory reporting laws. Their tax exemption status is questioned in several countries. Canada's Project Straight Arrow investigation by the Canada Revenue Agency into charity status runs from 2024 to 2025, after Canadian operations received $80 million in donations in 2016. Unlike most mainstream religious organizations, Jehovah's Witnesses maintain more hierarchical and centralized structure, more restrictive policies on higher education and careers, more systematic shunning practices for former members, less financial transparency, and more distinctive doctrines relative to mainstream Christianity. The Catholic Church, Mormon Church, and major Protestant denominations provide significantly more financial transparency through detailed annual financial reports. Official arguments in defense include constitutionally protected religious freedom, biblically based policies, protection against false accusations through the two-witness rule, and claims that the organization abhors child abuse and follows legal reporting requirements. Academic supporters, like Professor Patrick Parkinson, argue that post-2017 reforms provide adequate child protection. However, critics focus on documented high-control group characteristics, documented mental health impact, inadequate child protection policies, and lack of organizational transparency. Support organizations include JW Support as a UK-based peer support network, XJW Counseling for Specialized Therapeutic Services, Stephen Hassan's Freedom of Mind Resource Center, and the International Cultic Studies Association. Recent developments suggest an organization in gradual transition, making policy modifications in response to legal pressures while maintaining core doctrinal positions. The 2024 changes in terminology, dress codes, and reporting procedures represent incremental adjustments rather than fundamental reforms. For current and potential members, the research indicates the importance of fully understanding both the benefits of religious community and the potential personal and family costs of organizational practices. What makes this investigation particularly relevant today is the unprecedented regulatory scrutiny the organization faces across multiple jurisdictions. From Pennsylvania's grand jury investigation to Canada's charity status review to ongoing European Union discussions about high-control religious groups, government agencies worldwide are taking a closer look at practices that were once considered internal religious matters. The organization's response has been to modernize their image while maintaining core control mechanisms. Their 2024 rebrand includes updated logos, contemporary architecture for new buildings, and increased digital presence. They've relaxed some policies, allowing beards for men and pants for women in certain contexts, while maintaining strict control over information flow and social relationships. But perhaps the most telling aspect of my year-long investigation is what I couldn't access. Despite repeated requests for interviews with current leadership, financial documentation, and internal policy manuals, the organization maintained complete silence. This opacity stands in stark contrast to other religious organizations that regularly engage with journalists and researchers. The pattern of secrecy extends to their legal strategy. In case after case, from Pennsylvania to California to Australia, the organization's lawyers have fought disclosure of internal documents with a determination typically reserved for state secrets. When courts have ordered document production, compliance has been minimal and reluctant, often resulting in additional sanctions. What emerges from this investigation is a picture of an organization at a crossroads. With declining growth rates in developed countries, increasing legal challenges, and a generation of young people questioning traditional authority structures, the Jehovah's Witnesses face pressures that would challenge any institution. Their response so far has been tactical rather than strategic, making minimal adjustments while maintaining fundamental control mechanisms. The human cost of these policies extends far beyond statistics. During my investigation, I interviewed dozens of former members, and their stories reveal the devastating impact of losing family, friends, and entire social networks overnight. Parents describe being cut off from their own children, siblings who can no longer speak to each other, and young people facing the choice between their family and their personal freedom. These personal tragedies play out against the backdrop of an organization with unprecedented global reach and resources. With nearly 9 million active members worldwide and billions in assets, the Jehovah's Witnesses wield influence that extends far beyond their religious mission. Their medical positions affect hospital policies. Their educational stance influences thousands of young people's career prospects, and their political neutrality affects civic participation in communities worldwide. The investigation also revealed the sophisticated nature of the organization's global operations. From their state-of-the-art media production facilities to their international legal teams, from their digital translation systems to their global real estate portfolio. This is not the simple religious organization their public relations suggests. It's a multinational operation with revenues and assets that rival major corporations, yet operating with the transparency requirements of a local church. As I conclude this year-long investigation, what strikes me most is the gap between the organization's public presentation and its internal reality. The smiling faces in their publications and the warm community atmosphere they promote mask a system of control that would be familiar to students of authoritarian movements. The question isn't whether individuals within the organization are sincere in their beliefs, most clearly are, but whether the institutional structure serves those individuals or exploits them. The evidence suggests that the Jehovah's Witnesses represent something new in religious history, a global organization that combines traditional religious authority with modern corporate structure and digital age information control. Understanding how this organization operates provides insights not just into one religious group, but into the mechanics of institutional control in the modern world. For those considering involvement with Jehovah's Witnesses, this investigation provides essential information about what membership truly entails. For those already involved, it offers perspective on policies and practices that may affect their lives and families. For observers of religious freedom and institutional accountability, it raises important questions about the balance between religious autonomy and public oversight. The story of Jehovah's Witnesses is still being written. With ongoing legal challenges, changing generational attitudes, and increasing scrutiny from regulators worldwide, the organization faces pressures that will likely force continued evolution. Whether that evolution leads toward greater transparency and accountability, or toward more sophisticated methods of control remains to be seen. What my investigation makes clear is that this organization deserves the same level of scrutiny we apply to other institutions with similar resources and influence. The fact that it operates under religious protection should not exempt it from questions about transparency, accountability, and the treatment of its members and former members. In a democratic society, no institution should be above scrutiny, regardless of its claimed divine mandate. The Jehovah's Witnesses have built something remarkable, a global organization that has maintained doctrinal consistency and institutional loyalty across nearly 150 years and hundreds of cultures. But they have also created something troubling, a system that prioritizes institutional preservation over individual welfare and maintains its authority through information control and social pressure rather than open persuasion. As this investigation concludes, the most important questions remain unanswered. Will growing legal and social pressure force genuine reform, or will the organization simply adapt its control mechanisms to new circumstances? Will the next generation of members demand greater transparency and autonomy, or will they accept traditional authority structures? Will government regulators find ways to balance religious freedom with individual protection, or will institutional religious claims continue to trump personal rights? These questions matter not just for the millions of people directly affected by Jehovah's Witnesses policies, but for all of us who care about the balance between institutional power and individual freedom in modern society. The story of this investigation is ultimately about more than one religious organization. It's about accountability, transparency, and the price of institutional loyalty in the 21st century.